Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's webinar, which, can you believe, is our 29th webinar. We're delighted to be joined by award-winning wildlife photographer Deb Heath, who will be sharing her experiences of life in the woods, hedgerows and fields of North Hampshire. Many of us dream afar of safaris and extraordinary wildlife encounters, but Deb's talk reminds us that wonder can often be found much closer to home. Through her photography and stories, she'll show us just how rich, varied and surprising the wildlife can be on our doorstep and indeed in our own woodlands. So please join me in giving a very warm welcome for Deb and take it away.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everybody for asking me to share my pictures with you this evening. So as Sarah said, I live in Hampshire. I live in Overton, in a little village in Overton, in Hampshire. My pictures are all taken locally, so within 2 miles of my house, which sounds very grand. It sounds like I live in the middle of nowhere. I don't live in a nature reserve. I don't live in a national park. I do live near the River Test, which is a treble SI, a site of special scientific interest. But apart from that, it's just, I'd like to say bog standard woods and fields. That sounds a bit rude, but normal woodlands. I'm not professionally trained as a photographer. Taking pictures is a hobby of mine. And I do it because I love sharing my pictures with other people, like-minded people. So this is why I set up Test Valley Wildlife. So hopefully my website address is on all the images that I will be sharing with you tonight. And through that website, you can go to my Facebook page and an Instagram page where I regularly post things that I've seen out and about. So let's get on. Oops. This disaster is not moving my page. Oh, no, here we go. So I have to apologise. Yes, thank you, Sarah. I'm not even in my own house this evening because our internet all crashed, and so I'm all a bit sort of out of sorts here. So everybody tells me that I should be entering the Countryfile calendar competition. And of course I do, along with 20-odd thousand other people. But in 2020, I was very surprised to find that my rainbow picture had made it into, I guess it's the last sift of about 30 pictures that they print on a spare back page of their calendar. And there was my little rainbow picture, which is my claim to fame. I also often have my pictures on Saturday weather, the Saturday weather programme. I have it in local and national newspapers, and they're sometimes on The One Show. And this year, I'm the British Deer Society's Photographer of the Year. And they've also made me their first female photography ambassador. So here we go. A woodland safari. So for a long time, I've wanted to go on an African safari. But unfortunately, my husband, whose name is Martin. I'm not Marty. Obviously, I'm Deb, but it's his computer because I'm not in my own house. So my husband, he has deep pockets and short arms. So I'm forced to stay here in Hampshire and have a safari at home. Sorry, my neighbours have just walked straight past my screen. The word safari is a Swahili word and it means journey. And it's come to mean a trip to see, photograph or hunt wild animals in their natural environment. Now, obviously, in Overton, I don't see lions and leopards and impalas, but the village does have a huge variety of wildlife, which is equally fascinating and far less expensive to photograph. So this one, the picture that you're looking at now, was in the Times just back in March, actually. Do you need an expensive camera to enjoy your own wildlife safari? The answer is no. Yes, I do have an expensive camera, but sometimes just capturing the moment on your phone is best. So the two pictures that I'm showing you now were just on my phone, and they were just lovely moments as I was walking along with the dog. This is Tess. She comes with me all the time. She was crying when I took that picture because the sheep were covering around her. But and the butterfly there, if you get it right, your phone's perfectly adequate. So if you went on on African safari, you'd want to see lions, rhinos, elephants. You'd have a big five that you'd want to go and see. So for me in Overton, I think my big five are the hare, the fox, roe deer, the badger, and muntjac. Of course, without healthy woods and hedgerows, you wouldn't see any of these things because they're a source of shelter, food, and a safe breeding ground for all the wildlife that I see, a lot of the wildlife that I see. On safari, you'd be required to wear sensible beige brown clothing when you sit in the wagons and off you go. Me, now, thank you, Martin, for this picture. And I do apologise, it's not my best look. I feel slightly embarrassed sharing it, but it's what I wear when I go out taking my pictures. Now, a lot of the wildlife that you see, I can't say it's all of the wildlife, I don't know for sure, but they don't see in colour. So they wouldn't see that you've got a bright yellow jumper on or something, but they would see the movement of a bright yellow jumper against a green background very much easier than they would a camouflage jacket. I wear a floppy hat and often if I'm sitting, I wear a face mask and I wear gloves because a round, pale face and hands are very obvious if they move about. So you have to try and make yourself look hedge-like. I spend a lot of my time sitting in hedges, as you probably see later on. So let's see. When you go off on your safari, you won't necessarily see your big five straight away. You'd have to sort of build up to it. So we'll see what we can see. And we could start our safari in the garden. There's lots of things that are in your garden that you probably don't even notice. Male blackbird. We've got loads at the moment fighting with each other. Now, I always have food out. I've had to change my speech slightly. I always put food out all year round, and it can be quite surprising what you see. This is lovely young great spotted woodpecker here. But the RSPCA have just put out this call, you should not feed the birds during the summer because of the spread of disease. I think primarily that's because you get those wooden feeders that they're flat and everybody sits on them, and that's what holds all the bacteria. And if you don't clean your feeders, if you wash your feeders regularly, and I always use sort of dangly feeders, actually that's broken, I don't use that one anymore, but if you wash your feeders regularly, I think you're okay. And in fact, I have loads of greenfinches and chaffinches in the garden, so clearly I'm not affecting them in any way. So it's amazing what you see, but these are obviously, some of them are regular visitors. The blue tits always nest every year in our garden. And one day I was out looking in the sunshine for some butterflies that were floating around. And I heard this little blue tit shouting and shouting. And there he was sitting on the neighbour's apple tree with a face full of caterpillars. And he shouted so much, he dropped his caterpillars. I felt really mean, but I guess that's it. And on the right, we have the beautiful bullfinch, but he only comes in January, February time, and he comes to eat the cherry blossom, the first little nibs of buds of the cherry blossom. So depending on what time of year you do your safari will depend on what you see in your garden, in the fields, and in your woods. On this occasion, I was walking out with Tess one afternoon, lovely sunny afternoon, and this starling was the other side of the road, shouting and shouting. Luckily, I had my camera with me. He was bathed in, he or she, I'm not sure which, bathed in sunshine. The colours, the iridescent colours, you think starlings are black and white, but they're not. They're amazing colour. Luckily, I had my camera with me, and on a safari, you have to be ready to just go click straight away. Unfortunately, A, he was in focus, and B, he looked lovely. So be ready. Be on the ball. Look out for everything. Everybody loves the robin, and they regularly come into everybody's gardens, I'm quite sure. And they'll perch on just about anything. Now, at this point, I'll have to point out that my husband is a deer manager. So he was out cleaning his rifles, and I put some seeds on the floor. So this is why the robin perched on the end of his rifle. It's not a normal thing in the garden. But you could put ornaments or special logs with moss on, and a bit of food there, and all the birds would come in and you'd get a lovely picture with that. So when I do photography talks, that's a suggestion that I make for them to build an image in their garden, their pictures. Every now and then you get a surprise visitor. This is the first year that I've had siskins coming in and eating the food from the feeders in the gardens. You have the male siskin, the lovely yellow, bright yellow with a black hat. He's on the left of the feeder, and the sort of vaguely stripy one is the female on the right of the picture. And occasionally we get a chiff-chaff coming in. But feeding the birds in the garden, of course, you're providing dinner for others. One of our top predators, the sparrowhawk that comes in, you might be excited if you saw an eagle. I do get quite excited when I see this. It could be a goshawk in your wood. Perhaps they often go through the woods. Beautiful birds. This is the male. He's quite pink underneath. Sadly, he's eating one of my goldfinches, unfortunately. On a safari in South Africa, they have porcupines. Here in Overton, we have hedgehogs. This is a young one that we rescued, actually. It's a female. It weighed less than 120 grams when we found it out during the day. And through the help of Heart Wildlife, who I support with the funds, some of the funds that I get with my sales, we were able to help her back to full recovery, and she was released. And last year I had 2, and they were regularly visiting the garden. This year I have seen evidence of hedgehogs, but I haven't actually seen the hedgehog. Hopefully it's still coming through. So from the garden, we can go further afield. In Overton, we're blessed with many different types of habitats. You've got the hedgerows, you've got the fields, the rivers, woodlands, ponds, all sorts. But once you're out of the garden, it is more difficult to get close to whatever you want to see, unless of course it's a duck. And sometimes when you go out and about, certainly for me, it is only ducks that you get to see. So you have to take potluck when you're wandering around. The grey heron, the birds I'm going to show you now, it's just a few, obviously, of the ones that you'll see out and about in the fields and the woods. So the heron. And he doesn't only hang around in rivers and on the canals. He'll be out in the fields hunting for frogs and other little things that are hanging about in the fields, mice and things. A safari, if you went in Africa, I'd be full of all these strange noises from the birds and the mammals out and about, especially in the dark. And as you walk around on your safari where you live, you need to listen out for the telltale sounds of what's about. So you have a little bit of bread and no cheese. That's the yellowhammer, the top bird there, that's singing away, and it's a beautiful little song that you get from him. And the bottom one is the blackcap. And he's a summer visitor from Northern Europe, and he is so beautiful when he sings. And I'm not going to try and repeat his song, but he has been dubbed the Northern Nightingale because it's such a lovely song. And whenever I do my talks, I always ask people, I can't ask you now, but if they use the Merlin app for bird identification, because the more you know about the sounds that you've got and you listen to, the more enjoyment you get from your safari. Even if you haven't seen one of these birds, or you know it's there, and it's just lovely to hear them. And if you stand in your wood with turn on a Merlin, I'm sure there might be other apps as well, but turn it on for 10 minutes and it's amazing what you will have. And this just indicates a really healthy and diverse woodland. I was walking along the river a couple of weeks ago, 10 minutes, and it picked up 28 different bird species. it's amazing, and it's worth doing it just to find out what you've got, even if you're not interested in birds. It's an indicator of health in the wood. The lovely red kite is it's definitely our equivalent to an eagle. Once almost well, it was extinct, I think. It's now a common sight since it's been reintroduced in the Chilterns, and it's spreading steadily. So I don't know where you're sitting listening to this talk now, but down in Hampshire, the red kite is a very common sight. They're graceful birds as they wheel and shout overhead in the skies, and they really are in large numbers, especially when the farmers are out ploughing their fields or cutting their crops. They just all screech and they come whizzing in. It's a real success story. You also have the kestrel. This was another one that this was in the Times as well, I think, this picture. Beautiful little bird, master of hovering. It's the ones that you see sort of hovering along by the side of the motorway on the verges. And I'm quite certain that they will be breeding somewhere near you too. They love to find a little hollow in an old tree. So if you just look around in your woods, if you've got a tree with a great big hole, you might, especially if you see on the right, you can see all the poo. That's a good sign that they are using, or somebody is using that hole. So on this picture, we've got on the left-hand side, we've got the female kestrel. And on the right-hand side, it's the male. This beautiful sort of red back. But having seen them around, and then I saw a little fledgling. The one on the left is a young kestrel fledgling, and it was sitting on the floor. And I crept up to it. I only had my bridge camera, it isn't full frame. It's lightweight and easy to use, handy to carry about. But I got up really close to it because it was young and silly, I suppose. It still sat on the floor. But knowing they were around, I started to go regularly looking out for them. And I was seeing them sitting on this one little twig. It was beautiful, and with beautiful weather that we had. Again, I took it with my bridge camera. But I've never made it into a card, because as soon as people see the image, they say, "Oh, is it photoshopped on?" And no, it was just sitting on a little twig. Beautiful picture, though, I think. This is another common sight that you'll find in the fields and in the woods, the pheasant. Not native, but it makes for an attractive sight as you walk around the fields and your woods. Now, if you go out early, or as the sun goes down, you might be lucky enough to see a barn owl. I thought they were doing really well last year. I saw probably 6 pairs in various areas around Overton. And I was really excited to see them nesting and being successful again. But because it was so hot and dry, we had no voles around here, which is their main food source. So none of them bred. I mean, it's really sad, really sad. But this one that I was watching, that the females are larger. Obviously, you can't tell unless you've got them both together, but they tend to be darker. They've got really spots on their breasts and under their wings, and they have the facial disc ring is very much darker than the male. So I'm guessing that this one is a female. So they will also find a hole in an old tree in your woods to nest in, or they'll find a barn. So this was 2 years ago, and there were actually 4 that successfully fledged, and I think I saw them as they went off. It was beautiful to see them all. Last year, absolutely nothing. And hot off the press, I've just put a trail cam up at the end of this little strip of, I think there might be wires or something between 2 barns. and we put a trail cam up, one of my cams up at one end, and I saw the owls in there. I haven't seen any chicks or eggs, but there were owls in there. So fingers crossed, it might be a more successful year this year. Around us, we're lucky to have several different types of owls, and as you might have where you are. This is a little owl. And on this picture, I watched it for half an hour, sitting looking like a little rugby ball, doing absolutely nothing. And eventually it sort of went and shook all its feathers. It's called rousing, and they reset their feathers before they fly. So unfortunately, I got one picture of him looking sort of interesting. And this one was taken a few years ago in a wood pile. They're very shy. They prefer nesting in woods. If you put a little owl nest box up, they probably won't use it. They'll go off into the woods somewhere. But if you disturb them, they go and they just don't come back. But the only trouble is with them, they always look grumpy, even if they're jolly. They just got sort of grumpy faces, which is a shame, really. You might, on your safari, even spot a tawny owl. I haven't seen one recently, but down in the New Forest on Facebook, I keep getting these pictures of tawny owls, which is, I haven't seen them, I haven't been down there. But there are obviously a lot around. They like to nest in trees with ivy on them, which is interesting because tawny owls, the owlets can't fly straight away. So they go and they branch, so which means they sort of trundle out onto the branches of the tree and so look about and squawk and get fed, and then they go back in again until they can actually fly. But if they fall out of their nest or off their branch, they can crawl back up the ivy to get back into their nest, which is quite sensible, really. However, they are pretty ugly when they're little. No, you're laughing away, Sarah. They look a lot nicer when they're grown up.
Fuzzy and cute. They do look cross though.
They are funny, aren't they? They can't believe they turn into such nice birds. But anyway, there they are. There they are. So who doesn't enjoy seeing the swallows and the house martins when they come back for the summer? They've got to be some of our most popular migrant birds. And they're unbelievable. They fly all the way back from South Africa to breed. It is incredible, isn't it? So the one on the left is a house martin, and the one on the right is a swallow. So when you see them flying, the house martin actually looks a bit like a killer whale because it's sort of white on its back, whereas the swallows have got those great long tails. Amazingly, they come all this way. They return to the same site to nest each year. And this is one collecting mud to mend the nest, and hopefully they'll start again and have another brood. So if you see them around your house, don't knock them off, because some people in Overton knock their nests off, and it's so sad because this is actually the house martins, but they do the same thing. But they come all the way and find their nest is gone. On September, so this was the 25th of September here last year, they gather and then they're gone. Weirdly, it's quite spooky now. I said earlier that my internet was down and I've had to move to a friend's house to do this chat with you. And I was early in the morning meant to be I did take the same friends to the airport. But I was out walking my dog before I went to the airport with my camera, no, actually with my phone. And I saw all these birds. Oh my goodness, it's the swallows and the house martins, they're gathering. So I raced home with Tess, grabbed my camera in the knowledge that I had to get for 8:30 to my friend's house to take them to the airport to go on they were doing a cruise or something. So I whizzed in, they were all still there, took these pictures, threw my camera on the back seat and raced around to take the same friends whose house I'm in now to the airport. Which is quite weird, actually. But yeah. So they're gone. By the afternoon, they'd gone. But it is a lovely sight to see them. Sadly, becoming a more and more rare sight now, the swift. They really need our help. Excuse me. I don't know if any of you have got swift boxes around in your houses, but last year I think we saw 22 around Overton. There used to be hundreds of them, and they're the ones that they go whizzing around in little gangs, and they whistle as they go. And amazingly, I had to take this picture. It was 1/640th of a second setting on my camera to get this in focus. I didn't even know that my camera went that fast. I just kept turning the speed up to try and get it in focus. They are very well named. You might not have a river in or near your wood, but there is the River Test close to me, within walking distance, and we do have kingfishers nesting on the river there. So I had to show you a kingfisher because they are so beautiful. Most people don't get the opportunity to see these lovely little birds because they're very shy. They're actually very small. And if you're lucky, you see a little blue flash as it whizzes low over the water. But if you know, or if you put your Merlin app on, they just go peep, peep, peep as they whiz across, and they're very, very fast, but they are lovely little birds. So leaving the birds behind us on our safari, we'll turn our attention now to the insects. So at least our insects aren't as dangerous as they might be if you went on safari in Africa. At least most of them aren't. I think adders are a bit iffy, but in the past, I think I'd see a dragonfly and think, oh, it's a little dragonfly or something. But if you start taking pictures and start looking at them, they are amazing little insects. There are so many different types. This is a male common darter. And take a picture of something if you don't know, and then look it up on the internet and find out what it is. And then it just becomes more interesting if you know a little bit about the things that you see in and about your woods and the fields or the rivers near yourselves. It's nice to learn a little bit about them. So, are they damselfly or dragonfly? The damselfly on the left, he rests with his wings closed. This is the banded demoiselle. And on the right, you've got the broad-bodied chaser who rests with his wing, or the dragonflies rest with their wings open. My arms aren't high enough. I'm demonstrating here, closed and open. I don't think you can see my arms moving around. I can't talk. If I sat on my hands, I wouldn't be able to say anything. So I'm sure you'd see these around. And they're beautiful. And they might not be everybody's cup of tea, but look at the colour of the beautiful demoiselle. And they're quite intricate. Some of these, you'd expect to see them in Doctor Who, wouldn't you? And you might be into sort of macro or something, but their wings look like lace and their eyes look like, let's say, something in Doctor Who, or they're wearing Top Gun goggles or something. So this, on the left here, we've got the willow emerald damselfly, and not only is he quite rare, and I didn't know this until I took the picture and went home and had a look at him, but he's also quite unique because you might have noticed that he's sitting or perched, and he's not closed and he's not open. So he's quite unique in the fact that he sits half and half. And on the other side of the screen is the emperor dragonfly, and he's one of our biggest and one of our most colourful, and they're beautiful. This is the male. They're so big you can hear them sort of going as they fly past you. Butterflies and I don't think I'm sharing moths with you this time. But if you have a summer safari, hopefully you'll see lots of butterflies. And I don't know about where you're living in your own homes, but around here this year, there have been so many butterflies already. Holly blue, for instance, I used to see 1 or 2 in spring, and this year I've seen hundreds. So it seems like it might be, fingers crossed, a really good year for the butterflies. And depending on what time of year you do your safari, depends on what sort of butterflies you'll see. But we've got loads of butterflies and moths around us. This is a common blue, and they're not that common, I don't think. But when I first started going out with my camera and thinking, well, I'll take a picture of this, I was out with my husband, who I don't call Marty, he's Martin. I don't know why that's that. But I was out with Tess and Martin, and I saw this little common blue flying about. And when it sits with its wings generally closed. And the underside of a common blue is very pale, oaty coloured, speckledy, very good at camouflaging itself on a little dead stick. So I twigged where he was, and he closed his wings, and I had my finger pointing, look, look, there he is, there he is. So that I thought Martin might be interested in seeing it, but he wasn't. But because I was talking, and Tess is so well behaved, she came running over, and she was at the time young and foolish. So she ate it. I was absolutely mortified. So the next time I saw one, I went, right, sit. And I had Tess sitting over there, and I raced over and took the picture. But now she's quite old, and she's very much more sensible. She doesn't do that sort of thing. So this is one of the earlier butterflies that you would see. So in the spring, when it starts warming up, you might see the lovely orange butterfly. This one is a male. This one is in the times. My question to all of you is, why in the animal world, not counting the human beings, is the male, I might have actually alienated half of the listeners now, the male species in the wild animal world are always so much more exciting to look at than the female. Because here's the female, she's just white. And the male's got that beautiful orange top to him. I mean, they both got this lovely camouflage wing underneath, but hey ho.
Is it to make up for their personalities? No, I mustn't say that. Is it because
Well,
they have to do all their like impressive dances and stuff, don't they? All their impressive peacocking around.
maybe they do. I don't know. But yes, we won't talk about personalities. But yes, you might be right. Who knows? Who am I to say halfway through my talk? You'll have people switching off right, left, and centre, Sarah.
They know I'm only joking. But I think, yeah, even mallards, even the female mallards are just so boring
Everything,
in comparison. Yeah.
everything. And then when you see the roe deer, you'll see with the antlers. Anyway, we'll get onto those later. So, so when we start, and actually I can't tell the difference between these, the females and the males, on this next lot of species that I've got up. But you've got your peacock on the left, top left, and then you've got the comma on the, I don't know why I'm pointing because you'll see it, on the right, and underneath is the red admiral. And these butterflies will be the early ones you'll see. You might even see them as early as February. If it warms up, they'll start emerging because they hibernate as adults, whereas maybe that's why I'm holding my head sideways. They hibernate as adults. They come out and then they mate and lay their eggs and carry on, and then hibernate again. Whereas the others will emerge as little caterpillars from their eggs or their chrysalids and start their cycle later on. So hence the reason they come out later. So later on in the year, you would expect to see the speckled wood on the left, the beautiful silver wash fritillary. There are lots of different fritillary types. They're much bigger, those butterflies. And the marbled white. And you'll see them in your woods feeding off all the brambles and things. Now, this is the painted lady. She's a migrant. I say she, because it's called a painted lady, but there must be men as well that look like this. But they migrate from Africa. Don't ask me how they do it. Sometimes they come over in their hundreds, and sometimes they you just see one or two. Sometimes I never see any. I've already seen two this year. So as it seems to be a good year for butterflies, maybe if you do your safari this summer, you'll see hundreds of painted ladies. They're quite big butterflies, and it's beautiful to think that they come all this way to see us. In a healthy woodland, you should see a variety of fungi. And Sarah asked me to put these in. So fungi actually aren't my thing, but I did scroll through all my pictures and I find, so I might be impressed with this bit because I
Crowd
don't really do.
pleasers. The fungi
I
are the
don't,
crowd pleasers as well.
the fungi, yes. So this is a black ink cap, and what a funny name for black, yeah, black ink cap. Why on earth? But now I know. When it starts to go off, that's what happens, and that's how it gets its name, which is pretty gross, really. But some of them are amazing. And a sign of a healthy wood, you should find the fungi in the damp and the leaf mold in your wood. On the left, you've got the scarlet elf cup. They're tiny. It looks quite big on the screen, probably, but they're not. They're really not very big. And on the right, we've got the fly agaric, which is deadly poisonous. So when they're bright red and beautiful, they're poisonous. If they're revolting looking like the black ink cap, they're edible. I've not tried them. I would never suggest anybody eats them, but apparently they are edible. But these are poisonous, so do not touch it. If it's red, don't eat it. That's my motto. With fungi, anyway. I do like strawberries, by the way. So I'm not very good at naming the fungi, and I had to look all these up on the internet. But it's a good way of finding out and learning about the things that are in your wood. All of these pictures I took with my phone. I keep looking this way because at home I've got two computers next to me. In my friend's house, I've got her television screen on the wall next to me. So I'm looking at checking the pictures right. So on the left of these pictures, you've got the jelly ear, which seems to be rather well named, because it does actually look like an ear, doesn't it? And top left here, we've got something called velvet foot, and underneath it apparently yellow brain. Beautifully named. I love the names of them. I really know nothing else about them, except that they're rather gorgeous, which is why I took a picture of them. So go into your woods, get your phones out, start taking everything that you can find and learn about them, because it's exciting when you start finding out about things that you don't know about. I take a lot of my pictures in and around sort of ancient woods around here. Excuse me. And if you start your safari in the springtime, then you might go into your wood and see, if you're lucky, carpets of lovely snowdrops. It promises that nicer weather is on the way. So they're always beautiful to see, and they're such hardy little flowers, aren't they? And later on, then you'll get carpets of the lovely wild garlic, and you get that garlicky smell coming up. And I don't know if any of you are into picking and making things from things that you've picked out and about. I mean, yes, I pick sloe for sloe gin and blackberries and things, but I don't actually pick much else. But I was walking with a friend and her dogs. She said, I'm out looking for wild garlic. And we found this wild garlic, and she was picking all the leaves and made a pesto. So when she got home, she sent me a picture of her pesto that she had made out of the wild garlic leaves that we'd picked that morning, which is quite nice, really. So first signs of spring, rather, and it's lovely. And then you get the beautiful English bluebells. But this is because it's an ancient wood. And the picture that you've got here on the screen is the same wood as you've got behind me. And it's a beautiful ancient wood where all the lovely English as opposed to Spanish bluebells are. It's a sure sign of a lovely, old, healthy wood. Annoyingly, though, muntjac deer love eating bluebells, but more of them later, because we still haven't got onto our big five yet. Oh, here we go. Big five. First one is going to be the hare, which I love. Because there's something magical about hares with their big ears and living out in the open. And you see them all about in the fields. And to get this picture, I sat in the field and I was waiting. And it just kept hopping closer and closer towards me. It just kept coming until this is all I got in my viewfinder. And I call this picture Big Ears. And I sell him as a card. He's really popular. I don't know how many canvases of this view, because he's lovely. He's sort of perfect. He's got this little dimple in his nose that I have one on my wall. And of course, I took the picture, so I know it's not real. But I always want to stroke his nose because it looks real. It's lovely. Everybody, I love them, and everything about them I like. But everybody wants to get boxing hares, and you're out in the fields waiting, and you get them running this way, you get them running that way. They're sitting doing nothing. They're scratching, they're washing, and you're still waiting. And then, oh, but not very close, but they are fighting. Good enough. And then last, I managed to get actually boxing hares. So, and of course, everybody said, oh, mad March hares, they all box in March. But it's not actually true. They do box and mate throughout the year if the weather's right. And it's not two men sort of being macho. It's the female trying to fight off the unwanted advances of a male suitor. And the fights are fast and furious. The noise is incredible. I've had them fighting and coming past my feet, and they're grunting and they're scratching, and there's stones and fur flying. It's not surprising that when you see a lot of these hare, they've got their ears all ripped and their eyes are damaged, because it's really quite aggressive, actually. But it makes for a nice picture. And that was taken in September. So there you go. Proof that they don't only box in March. Number one of our big five ticked off. And I forgot to start my watch, so I've absolutely no idea how long I've been talking for. I'm sorry.
Good. I'd say we've got 15 minutes. We do need a bit of time for Q&A, but keep going, Deb. Keep going, honestly.
I'm so sorry I talked
No,
too much.
we're loving it. Keep going.
So they're in the fields. I'll talk a bit faster, but I'm afraid I normally talk quite fast, so I'm trying to slow down. They're in the fields in the summer. In the winter, they come into your woods to find shelter. A picture on the left was just taken with my phone. I probably could have got closer, but the little stick that you can see just poking out from underneath it, stupidly, I trod on the other end of it, so it took off, which was rather annoying. The one on the right was in the woods, and I was tiptoeing through the bluebells, trying not to tread on the bluebells. And I thought, there's a brown patch, and I nearly trod on the hare. And I don't know who was more surprised, him or me. But anyway, that is definitely number 5 ticked off. And we'll whiz through, because he's not a number 5, different mammals. We've got the stoat. I'm so conscious of the time now, Sarah. He came running. You can squeak and you can call stoats in.
Stop turning. The world won't stop turning if we go over 5 minutes. Don't
We're
worry.
not all going to get cut off.
No.
Okay. If you squeak, it sounds like you're kissing your hand or something. They come because they think you're an injured rabbit. And this little one, I was sitting waiting for a hare, and he came running past me. So I started squeaking, and he turned and he came running back out of the hedge, and he stopped in the middle of the track and sort of looked at me. So I carried on squeaking, and I was sitting on a tiny little stool with just shoes and loose trousers on. And then I apologise for the picture, but he came and sat literally right next to my feet. And he looked up at me as if to say, where's the rabbit? And I'm embarrassed to say that I actually screamed at this point because I thought he was going to run up my trousers. So he disappeared. And I went home a bit sort of, because one thing you wouldn't want is a stoat running up your trousers, because the mustards, they've got such a strong bite with their jaws. Not nice. So here we go. A lion zebra moment on a smaller scale, if you like. I was sitting out one evening, and this stoat came whizzing past me, carrying half a huge rat in its mouth. I know, I know. But there we go. It's, you know, that's wildlife for you. I'm not sure if I should have shown you, but it's definitely a lion zebra moment on a small scale. And if you sit, other animals join you. We've got this little squirrel. My mother, bless her, she is 99. She said to me, picture on the left is a squirrel eating a sweet corn. He'd come and got that from the crops and come and sat on a branch next to me. And she said, oh, who laid out the napkin? I maybe shouldn't have said that to you. And I've got rabbits coming out. And here we go, fox, lovely fox. Africa, they have hyenas, but we have got the lovely fox. And they often have their dens or sets in the woods, in your woods. And having looked at where they were, I sat one evening trying to get pictures of them coming out. And I waited, about to go. And I looked and I thought, oh, there's a ginger cat. So I got my binoculars up. And oh my goodness, it's a fox. So I squeaked. And it got up and came running, as it comes with as well. And it came very close. It was amazing. I hardly dared breathe. It was incredible. And then it just wandered off, found an old tennis ball and played with it like a puppy. Wow, you know, it was beautiful actually. And whizzing. And whizzing. This is another occasion. And this lovely fox came running across the field past me. This one was also in the Times. So number two, our big five ticked off. You can see I'm going faster, Sarah, can't you? There we go, whizzing through. River test, we've got water bowls, beautiful. And has anybody noticed the little pup that's in the hole that the adult was looking at? Beautiful. It won a few prizes, that picture, but it's so gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So cute. Going as fast as I can. My favourite species, deer. Here we go. Here we go. So muntjac are not native. They're actually from Asia, but they sort of escapees from Woburn Park. And they're no bigger than a spaniel. They can easily live in your wood. If you've got a large garden, they could live in your rhododendrons without even knowing until they start eating all your bluebells. There we go. They love bluebells. They're not very big though. And I was saying earlier, you maybe need to know a little bit about the things that are in your woods because it gives you more pleasure. You might not have pleasure having deer in your wood because they eat all your understory. But these have no fixed season. So they breed all year round in your wood. And if they're in your wood, they could do a lot of damage. So if you have deer, you might wish to consider getting a deer manager, get some sort of deer management plan to keep an eye on the numbers in your wood. And I'm not drumming up my custom for Martin because he has enough of his own. So learning more about them, on your safari, if you see the male, he's on the left of your picture. He's got the antlers, the smaller antlers than all the other deer. And he has like a V on his forehead, quite a distinct V. And the female on the right of your picture has a very distinct diamond shape. They're really not very attractive. So when they lose their antlers, they regrow them in velvet. And they look very bulbous when they're regrowing. This is during the summer, they regrow their antlers. So they lose their antlers at a different time of year from other deer. They look pretty ugly, don't they? So I'm not making cards out of this anytime soon. And number 3 of our big 5 ticked off. So, nearly finished. So, Africa, they've got antelopes, but we've got the beautiful roe deer. Now, we only have roe deer and muntjac in Overton. Fallow are around and about, but they're not in Overton. So these are the only ones I sort of look at. And I think the roe deer are the most beautiful. I named this one corkscrew boar. You can see his malformed antler. You should never name wildlife because, of course, somebody, and it wasn't Martin, I guarantee it wasn't Martin, but somebody I think might have shot him because I followed him for 4 or 5 years. He started me off on my adventure. And he became an impressive 6-pointer. So you've got 3 spikes on one side and 3 spikes on the other. Here's me being a roe deer buck. Beautiful, very impressive medal buck, but he's now gone, unfortunately. But it doesn't, just because you've followed them for a long time, doesn't make them any easier to photograph. Here he is in the wood, couched up. Not a very good picture, but because he's in thick cover. But it's the main reason why I tend to sort of sit outside the wood and wait for them to come out and photograph, because you've got the problem with light in the wood to get a decent picture. And also, if you're stalking in the wood looking for your wildlife, it can be in the summer like walking on cornflakes. So it's very difficult. Tread on a twig and everything just disappears and it ruins everything, which is why I sit outside. And whizzing, whizzing, whizzing. Shall I just whiz through that one, Sarah? Because Sarah, no, you're okay.
Oh, good.
Okay, so some of the animals are dangerous. On safari in Africa, you're told to stay in the van, don't get out. And you get the tigers and things walking past, but because you're in the van, you're safe. And people say, oh, are they dangerous when you're sitting out and about? And my mother particularly thinks they might be dangerous, but they're not, generally. Fallow and red deer in the rut, don't go near them. But the roe deer are not dangerous. But this one, my birthday treat in August, because the roe deer rut is end of July, beginning of August. And we got up at 4:45 in the morning and I went out to sit and see a rut. And I just sat down by a tree and this thing was flying full pelt towards me. Most of it wasn't in focus, and even that was not a very good picture. He was whizzing. I thought he was going to hit me, actually. So he was being chased away by corkscrew boy, because they have their territories. They fight each other, but they wouldn't go for us. Most of them run away from us. But it was a bit of a moment for me. You need a bit of luck on your safari. Being at the right place at the right time, or prior knowledge that somebody else has told you, oh, I've seen a such and such over there, go and have a look at it. And one autumn I was trundling along near a cover crop, and a cock pheasant, they're very sort of bolshy and make lots of noise. And he sort of got up and he went into the cover crop and landed in the cover crop. And he landed right next to this little roe doe, who I didn't even know she was in there. And she sort of got up and went, what's going on? And I was stood right next to her and I literally got click, click, and she disappeared. So you have to be ready on your safari to see anything could happen. And if you want to photograph it, be ready, because otherwise you've missed it. You don't get second chances, as you'll see in a minute. So early summer, you might be lucky enough to see new life coming in. You're beginning to get the idea. I love roe deer. I'm getting sort of more and more agitated when I'm talking about them. I'm excited. So I knew this family was coming out, and I just had to sit and wait for them to come. I just had to hope that they came out before the light went, and fortunately they did. This was another one that was in the Times, which was rather lovely. So I said, be ready for anything, because if it's happening, you haven't got time where you're too excited to check what's happening. You don't get any second chances. That's it. And I just, fortunately, I was lucky on this one. I saw her, I knew where she was going to go, and I quickly whipped the speed up on my camera, the shutter speed. But generally, you don't get second chances. They're there, they're gone, and if you've missed it, you've missed it. Like this one. Roe deer aren't much bigger than a Labrador. I mean, in weight size, their legs are a little bit longer, but that's about it. So in the summer, generally you can only see ears in the top of the crops. And Martin and I were in this field with the car because we had permission to have the car in the field. And he said, jump in, I'll drive down, because she was in a tram line. And we drove down. I said, I'll get myself all ready. When I get there, I'll tell you I'm ready. Make a noise, Martin, and I can take a picture. So we got opposite her, and she was very close, because this picture wasn't cropped or anything. And I said, I'm ready, make a noise. And he put his hand on the horn of the car. Well, my goodness me. She went like that and leapt in the air and disappeared. I managed to get one click and she'd gone. I mean, I nearly wet myself. She gave me such a fright. I turned around, Martin, I was expecting you to whistle or something. And barbing the horn was not what I was expecting. But I was lucky enough to have the fast shutter speed, and I just got her eyes in that picture. Best time to see them, sunset, sunrise, because they're diurnal. I knew she was this little girl was here. Tess and I crept along the side of the cover. She couched up. Where's she gone? Where's she gone? And I whistled, and she stood up, and she looked forward. She looked round as far as she could. She couldn't go 180 degrees. She looked both ways. I was right behind her. She couched up again, and Tess and I walked off. And it's really lovely to see the wildlife that you've got round and about in your wood, in the fields, without disturbing them. Number 4, ticked off, nearly there. Sorry, I talked so much. So number 5, when the first time I did it was an Overton safari that I did, I'd never seen a badger. I mean, love them or hate them, they're pretty impressive animals. They make their sets in or around your woods because it's quiet, and because they are very definitely nocturnal and the woods are dark, it's very difficult to photograph them. So I had to admit that I'd never seen a badger, despite the fact that it was my big 5. On your safari, you might not see your big 5, but it has been rectified. So here we go. I was a little cub. I found the set. I'm talking as fast as I can. Found the set. Looking around. This is a lovely wood, isn't it? There are bluebells and things around. When I look back, it's blooming. Pup was looking at me. Cub rather was looking at me. Damn it! I wasn't ready. And it straight down the hole again. So I was cursing myself for being so nosy, looking around the wood. And 2 minutes later, came out with another one. It was so sweet, so sweet. So number 5 of our big 5 ticked off. I wonder what you'll see and what your big 5 will be. Done and dusted.
Bravo, Deb. Thank you so
I'm
much.
sorry I galloped through the end.
You did. You know, I've only ever seen a badger. I
On the
think
road squashed. Oh,
I've seen one live one, and yeah, they are magnificent. They are my faves.
they
Um,
are beautiful.
oh, what a talk! What a talk! We've never had one like that, Deb. What a talk! Thank you so much. Um,
Is that good or bad?
really good. I think people are talking in the chat about yeah, people saying that that hour went very quickly, saying it was a great talk.
Thank you.
People, yeah, yeah, people like this talk. People are saying about some cameras. Oh, so people are just talking about the cameras they
I
have.
never thought, yes,
Canon,
okay.
Canon 450D and an EFS 18 to 15 mil.
So I started off with a Canon. Oh God, it was a something D. I can't remember now. It's a few years ago I had this one. And it was lovely. It was heavy. It wasn't mirrorless. And I was out with Martin. He had his rifle. I had my camera, and it was going. And he kept saying, "Isn't put it on silent." And I was going, "It is on silent." But when it's not mirrorless camera, it's never going to be truly silent. And the deer, they'd go, "What?" Because
Yeah.
somehow a metally noise, and they go, I don't like that, and they're gone. So I chased it. I think it's about time we got a new camera. So we bought. He didn't buy it for me, sadly, but I bought a Nikon. So I moved to Nikon. I got a Z6, which is mirrorless, which is lighter, and I also bought myself a big 5mm fixed 500mm lens, which is lighter again because it doesn't have all the glass for the different settings. Because of course, if you go all the way through the settings on your lens, you've got all the glass to cope with it,
Did
which
I
makes it
notice
heavy to carry around.
on
Sorry?
your long lens, is that was it camouflaged on the out, because it's so
Well, that picture, and like somebody asked me, I did a talk the week, about 3 days before we went on holiday. And as you know, Sarah, I've just come back yesterday. And somebody said to me, "What was that on your lens? It looks pink." And I, what? But of course, it was camouflage. That was my Canon, because Martin took that picture a few years ago. And it was my Canon, and the picture, the lens was actually very, very pale grey. So when he was deer stalking, and I was out with my camera, and I went to the other side of the field, so I was opposite him. I was in no risk of being shot. A, because I think he likes me. B, because it was a long way away. So I don't. It wouldn't have reached me because there was a dip, and he was looking down the dip and whatever. But when it got dark, so I could no longer take pictures, he said he couldn't see me, but he could see the pale lens of my camera. So
Uh,
that stands out. So we bought camouflage hood, if you like, for the
right.
lens of the. So if you've got a camera with a very pale lens, it might be worth considering getting some sort of netting, because the little face mask that I've got is just basically cam netting. So you could
Mm,
just put that around it, or you can buy these things that fit your lens that's camouflaged. So then it just doesn't stand out. Because
okay.
the camera
Got
that I've got now is well, actually I've got I've got a Z9 now. But the lens is black, so I haven't bothered covering it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's more praise rolling in. Everyone's just, yeah, people really enjoyed it. I tell you what is
Oh,
very
sweet.
interesting. We've got some webinars coming up. We've got one about hedgehogs, right? And
Mm.
they one of the questions, it's like I forget the name, it's like a hedgehog society, and they say they don't know too much about hedgehogs in woodlands because they snuffle around in the undergrowth. You can never really see what they're up to. I said, I think my swaggers, I reckon between us will solve that. I
Oh,
said,
do you know what?
yeah, I think there must be a way around it. Like, I'm sure we've got a hive mind here, haven't we?
I'm the trouble is, um, there are more hedgehogs in the villages and in townhouses with gardens than there are in countryside, because the only thing that go for hedgehogs are squash them, unfortunately,
Right.
and badgers. Badgers are the only animals that can eat a hedgehog. Because
Right.
they've got these, they've they're part of the mustelids as well. They've got huge claws, and they've learned that they can turn. I won't even go into it. They turn them
I can
over.
guess what you're saying.
Yeah, I can't. Oh. Somebody on my last talk, she said she had four of the five of my big five in her garden. She obviously had a nice garden. And she said she heard this terrible noise one night, and when she looked, it was a badger on a hedgehog.
That was a snack, midnight snack.
Horrible.
Well,
So actually, hedgehogs in the countryside are few and far between, unfortunately. They really are struggling because
right,
of the badgers.
right, okay, okay. Um, Final question. Claudine asks, "What trail cam do you use? If you do you use trail cams?" I think she might
Yes,
be.
I
Yeah,
do. I do. I put the trail cams out for my hedgehogs. Not my head. Yes, yes, to prove I got them in my garden. I put them out for the badgers to check whether they are um, breeding in which holes they're breeding in. And I put one up last year in a barn to see the owls, and this year we hung it at the end of this little tunnely thing. Um, and the guy whose ground it was said, "Should we put it back up?" When we saw the owls, and I've got them both, the male and the female, sort of looking and shouting at my trail cam because you get a little red light when it comes on.
right, okay,
And I said, "Well, no, you can't because they're protected. When if it's a nest, if they happen to be nesting in there, you're not allowed to disturb it." So now we know they're in there, because I didn't know whether they were in there or not, because nothing happened last year. So now we know they're in there. We can't go back in again because
right.
you're not allowed to disturb them. Um, God, and if I was at home, I could race into my utility room, grab it, and show you. But
Oh, Deb,
unfortunately,
you're a
I
swagger now. Just email me and I'll pass it on. You're one of us now. We'll have you back. Don't worry.
send me a little message to remind me, because I'm bound to have a drink when I finish this, and then I shall forget. So sorry about that. So send me a reminder, because I've
Yeah, I think so.
literally
Yeah.
just bought. I just got one recently, and it's lovely. And I set it. I just have a couple of photographs and then a video, a little like 10 seconds of video. And then what is it? I think about £100 you can get them for. You don't have to spend a huge amount of money.
Mm. Okay.
I've got two. There are two different types.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I think yeah, when you're back at home and you've got the internet, yeah.
yes, goodness. Well, they promised. No, they. Oh, they promised to try, which isn't a promise really, to get it back on again by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, which wasn't
Promise
going to
to
help.
try.
Promised to try and get it on back. I know. But regardless, it's not going to help me tonight. So this is why I'm here in my lovely friend's house.
Well, Deb, we've put you to work for long enough. I think you need to you can clock off now, put your time sheet in, and you can go and enjoy spending time with your pals. But thank you so much. You've thanks for all the time that you've spent like with us meeting and finessing this and getting all the tech checks
Absolutely
done.
fine. It's
Um,
lovely.
we've
And
really enjoyed it. Really have.
it's lovely that people enjoy seeing things. So many people walk along chatting with other people and they don't see it. They go, oh, well, we've never seen blah, blah, blah. And Martin and I went out one morning. You see, I'm off again on another story, which is why every picture tells a story is another one that I do. We were walking along one morning early and we could hear these women, and they were 3 fields away. They were chatting away to each other, having a nice walk. No, we never see any wildlife. Well, is it surprising? If you actually, if you want to see the wildlife, believe it or not, I can be quiet.
I was thinking, I was
You,
wondering.
you would be amazed.
Ah, Deb.
And I can sit for 2 hours doing nothing. But you hear the birds, and if you've been looking on your little Merlin, you know what they are, and it's a pleasure to hear it all, even if you don't see it.
Well, Deb, I think we'll draw it to an end there because I don't want you to give away all of your magic because then I can't invite you back for a second webinar in the future. So, thank you very much and
Pleasure.
your time and just have a lovely
Thank you
evening. And
for
thanks
having
to
me.
all of you attendees
Thank
and
you, people.
see you all soon. Thank you very much, Swaggers. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.